Hello and welcome to the second week of our class. In this video, we're going to learn about research presentations after we talk about general presentation from the first week. So, as a master degree student, you might spend many months or year doing your thesis, doing your independent study. So, the topic of your research might be something that you are interested in, or might be something that might have some impact on certain issue. For example, you are a master degree student in business. You might want to look into something that might help to increase the efficiency of business, like looking into time management, marketing strategies, customer satisfaction. So when you are writing up your thesis, you need to follow some format. You need to follow some guideline. So now we're going to talk about the research format that you might need to follow. Okay, these are the common research format. Okay, there are three parts in the research format. The first part is the preliminary part, and then the main part and the end matter. So let's begin with the preliminary part or the introduction part. In this part, it includes the title page, abstract, and content. So on the title page, it will tell the reader what your research is about, the name or the title of your research, and this will be followed by your names, the course that you study, the year that you study, and the name of the university. So after the title page, this will be followed by an abstract. So an abstract is like a one-page summary of your research. It will give background information about your research, the purpose of your study, the research methods, and the result. And this will be followed by the contents. The contents will give the page numbers in the main sections. So now we're going to move on to the main parts of your research format. So it will start with the introduction part. The introduction part will give background information about your research. It shows the reason why you are doing this research, the statement of problem, and your research questions, what you need to do in your research or your research hypothesis. So after you state in the introductions what is your research question is, then you're going to move on to the methodology. In the methodology part, you will tell the audience how the information in your research is obtained. So who or what is your research subject? What research tool are used in your research? And how do you analyze the data? So after the methodology, you will present your findings and then you will discuss your finding, and then this will lead to a conclusions, okay? And then at the end of the report, you will have a reference. A reference is the list of all the information, all the material that you are used in your research. And then if you cannot put everything in your main text, you might have an appendix to put extra information for the reader to read. So after you are finishing your research, you might be asked by your teacher to present your research paper at the academic conference. So actually, we are talking about academic conference in the first video, but now I'm going to quickly give a definition of it again. So what is a research presentation or what is academic conference? So academic conference is a gathering of experts presenting their finding on a specific topic within a single days or few days. When I'm talking about the expert, I mean this could be the university professor, it could be researchers, thinkers, experienced teachers, or students like you. So these experts will gather together to provide information about their work, to give their opinion and perspective on a particular topic or issue, or to give guidelines for future research or predict some trend. So as a student, why academic conference is relevant to you? In many universities, presenting your paper at that academic conference is a requirement for your graduation. And personally, um, academic conference will give you the opportunity to present your work in a professional setting, and also it will help you to gain more experience in speaking publicly and translating your knowledge to a broader audience. For some students, they say that spending months writing their research could be easier or seem easier than presenting the research. Why? Because when you're giving a research presentation, you will be given like you will be given 30 minutes to talk about your whole research, to talk about everything that you have done for the past 2-3 months. So you have to be precise, you have to be focused and pick the most important part of your research to present it to other people. And also presenting your paper to a bunch of experts could be a nerve-wracking as well. So in order to do a research presentation, what needs to be included in the research presentation? So these are the outlines of research presentation. These are part that you need to consider when you're giving a research presentation. There are 4 parts: the introduction part, the methodology part, the finding, and discussion and conclusion. So basically, you're just taking the main parts of your research and then present it to other people. So I'm going to give you a detail of each part of the research presentation. We will start with the introduction part first. Okay. In the introduction part, there are 3 moves in the introduction part. The first move is called establishing a research area, and the second move is establishing a gap, and the third move is occupying the gap. So we're going to start with the first move first. The first move, establishing a research area. In this section, you need to show to the audience, you need to show to the reader why your research area is important, why is it central, why is it interesting, or why is it problematic, and why is it worth doing the research about. So you can introduce the research area and also review the previous research in the past as well. Next, after you show to the audience that your research is very important, now you're going to establishing a gap. A gap means a hole in the research. Okay, it means a problem in the research area. So you have to indicating a gap in the previous research by raising question about it, by showing the lack of something, by showing that something needs to be done. So after you establishing a gap, you then trying to occupying a gap. When I say occupying a gap, it means that you're trying to do something. So you're going to tell the audience that you would like to do something with this research. So you're going to give a purpose, the purpose of your study, outline what you would like to do. Okay. So next, I'm going to give you some examples of the sentences that you can use in each part of the introduction. Okay. So we start with move 1. Move 1 is establishing a research area. So you tell your audience why your research area is important. So look at the example sentences here. The increasing interest in e-commerce has heightened the need for, or recently, there has been a growing interest in online advertising, and the development of green technology had led to the hope that, or the online advertising has become a favorite topic for analysis. Look at the red highlight here. All these words in the red highlight show the importance of your study. It emphasizes the strengths of your research area. It shows that many people are interested in it, that many research is being carried out in this area. So you can use these words or this choice of words to show the importance of your study. And now we're going to move on to the move to establishing a gap. So the most common way to establishing a gap, it could be showing a negative side. So after you show the positive sides from move one. So in move two, you can establish a gap by showing a negative side. You can use the word like however to show contrast, or you can use the word like little information, little attention, little work has been carried out to see the impact of something. Or, however, the field study, the field investigation has been made to the study of something. So the word like fields or little, it shows the lack of something, it shows the problem, it shows inadequacy. So it shows that something needs to be done. And then you can move on to move three. So move C is now when you're trying to fill in the gap, when you're trying to occupy the gap. So you will offer the solution by saying that you would like to do something. So you will state the purpose of your research. So you can use the sentences like, the purpose of this research is to, the aim of this research, the aim of this paper is to, the study was designed to. So in this move, you are going to tell the audience the purpose of your study, the research question, or the research hypothesis. So after you state what you would like to do with your research, so then you're going to move on and talk about the research methodology. Okay? In the research methodology, there are four parts: the populations or the samples, the sampling technique, materials, and procedure. So we're going to look in the detail of this part. Okay. First, you will talk about the population or the samples. The population or the samples is the people are the people who participate in your research. Okay, so the subjects of your research could be a small numbers, or it could be a large numbers of people. It depends on the purpose of your study. So these are the example sentences that you can use to show the population. Like the subject of this study were, the research participants are, the samples are, and the sampling group was. So after you talk about the research population, then you're going to talk about sampling technique. So you have to tell the audience how do you select your sample, how do you select your data. So you can use some examples like this. Samples of the studies were done from using simple random sampling method, or the participants are selected by purposive sampling technique, or a cluster sampling was used to select the participant. So these are the sentences that you can use to show the audience how do you select your sample group. And then we are going to talk about the research tools or materials. So you're going to tell the audience what research tools or research instrument that you use in your research. For example, you might say something like, the research instrument were questionnaire, survey, interview, a case study. Or you might say something, don't forget to talk about how you analyze your data as well. Like, the data were analyzed by t-test or standard deviation, or the collected data were analyzed by. So these are the material that you use in your research. And then you are going to talk about the procedure. What is the procedure or the process? You're going to tell the audience how your research was carried out, whether your research was carried out appropriately, step by step, with careful consideration so that the result could be convincing or believable. So in these sentences, the interviewer or the researcher describes how he conducts his interview and how he asks for the cooperation from the research participants. Okay. So after the procedure, after you explain about the research samples, the sampling technique, and your research procedure, then you're going to move on to the research finding. In the research findings, you have to introduce your result, and then you will present your the most important finding, and you need to comment on the results as well. So in this section, you might need some visual aid like graph and charts or images to clearly organize or display your data so that it will be easier for the audience to follow the finding. And also, these are sentences that you can use to show the findings of your research. For example, the findings show that, or the results of this study show that, or you can use the graph and chart to help with presenting your finding. So you can say something like, the following graphs show that, or the bar chart is used to show that. So this is your finding. And then you're going to move on to the discussions and conclusion. So, in the discussion part of your research, you will focus on explain or evaluate your finding in general. And then you will describe the significance of your finding, whether it leads to a new understanding or it shows a fresh insight into something. Then you can compare your research with other study, and also in the discussion part, you need to show the limitation of your study as well, and also the implication for future research. Then you make a clear conclusion. So here are the example that you can use. In the discussion, you can use in conclusion. It can be conclude that the results from this research are consistent with. So these are the sentences that you can use in the discussion part and conclusion part. So in the next video, we are going to look at a mini research paper. So we're going to look in detail of this research paper. The title of the research is Student Experience of Part-Time Work. So in the next video, we're going to look at this research. And after that, we are going to do a mini research presentation based on this study. So see you in the next video and thank you for listening.